Let's make some delicious loaded potato soup. This recipe is super easy to do, and you can set it up in the morning and finish your soup at night. Welcome to The Salted Pepper, where we cook for real life using real food and we keep it real simple. Today's recipe for loaded potato soup is super easy to make. It tastes like the insides of a really good twice baked potato. You are going to love this one. The first thing we need to do is get our bacon cooked up. The way I like to do that for this recipe is to cut it with scissors into little pieces so that it is perfect for your garnish at the end, and we add a little bit to the soup too. So I'm going to use the Possible Cooker Pro for this recipe. Works great, but you could do it in several different appliances. You could do the bacon on the stove. You could do this in the Ninja Foodie, pressure cooker, and air crisper. There's just tons of ways to make it. It's super easy. I'm using 1 pound of thick cut bacon. You can use thin cut bacon, but your timing will be different, okay? So for this recipe, we're using thick cut bacon, and it is just regular hickory smoked, all right? Save 1 piece for the soup itself, and the rest of it is going to be cooked and crunchy for the topping, and some goes in the soup, like I said. The easiest way that I found is to take sharp kitchen shears and just start to cut your bacon right over the pot, just like this, into little bits. That is going to get the most surface area so that you render that fat perfectly, crisp up the meat of the bacon itself, and you don't end up with flabby spots, which I don't know about you, but I like crispy bacon. And for garnish, this works great. Before I cut up the rest of the bacon, I'm gonna turn the Possible Cooker Pro on. We're gonna use sear saute for this part of the recipe. And we're gonna go on low. Now, if you wanna stand here and stir your bacon and get it done quicker, you can go on high, that's perfectly fine. Personally, I like to set it and kind of walk away and do other things, like prep the potatoes for the soup. So I put it on the low setting. We'll hit start. You do not have to wait for it to preheat. You can continue to cut your bacon up and it will preheat and start to cook while you're cutting up the bacon. Once you have all your bacon in, give it a stir and try to get everything in like a single layer so all the little pieces spread out on the pot. That will help it cook a little bit faster and more evenly. So once that's done, don't touch it, let it cook for 5 minutes, give it a stir, let it cook another 5 minutes, and repeat that process for about 20 minutes until the bacon is really nice and brown and crispy, and then we'll get it out of the pot and proceed with the recipe. This is a great time to start the rest of your prep. We're gonna cut your onion, chop your potatoes, and all that good stuff so that we can move right on to making the soup. When your bacon is done, you're gonna take it out with a slotted spoon, and then we're gonna dump the grease into a heat-proof bowl, okay? Make sure you have a shallow container, and I like to line it with a paper towel that's going to absorb the excess grease that's still on the bacon pieces, and it makes it a lot crispier. And then set these to the side for use later. You're gonna put 4 tablespoons of the bacon grease back in the pot. And actually that was all the grease. Now I've done this recipe several times and sometimes I've had a lot more left over. So I do recommend taking it out, measuring 4 tablespoons back in for accuracy because that is going to help build the base of the roux for the soup, okay? Now we can go ahead and turn the Possible Cooker off. That was perfect timing to get the prep done. I chopped the onions in about a 1/4-inch dice, chopped the green onions, just the white part, into little slices, got all the potatoes peeled. I'm using a combination of russet and Yukon Gold, but you can use any type of potatoes that you want. It's 3 pounds of potatoes that I use for this recipe. I've got my roasted garlic ready to go, and we are ready to start building this soup. So turn the Possible Cooker Pro back on. We're gonna stick to sear saute for right now, but we're gonna go up to high, all right? We're gonna hit start. Now the pot's already hot. It doesn't really need to preheat, but it's going to show the preheat anyway. You can go ahead and put in your onions. And then start cutting the potatoes. You wanna cut the potatoes the very last minute before you put them in the pot so that they don't have time to oxidize and turn brown. What I did was I peeled them during the bacon cooking time and I put them in a bowl of water, but they are whole. That means they're not going to release a lot of starch. It's not gonna make a difference. If you cut them and put them in water, there's more surface area to the potato. It's gonna release more starch, and that is less starch that's in your soup, and we need that for this loaded baked potato soup. So if you want to peel them ahead of time, only do it by about an hour and keep them whole in the water. We're going to put them in chunks, and the size is a little bit important because we want them to cook during the slow cook time. So I usually cut them into about 1.5 2-inch chunks maximum. You can put them into a measuring cup to measure if you want to, but you don't have to. You can put them directly into the pot. That's perfectly fine. Just make sure they're all broken up, that your knife went all the way through. You don't want double pieces. They're not gonna cook evenly. So go ahead and put your potatoes in and then give it a stir. Just let them sit in the pot, and we're gonna keep going. Salt and pepper can go in now. Roasted garlic. And now 1/3 cup of all-purpose flour. Sprinkle in about half, give it a good stir, and then we'll add the rest. All right, that's good. Now we're gonna add in 3 cups of chicken broth. Now I'm using the box kind. You can use homemade. I add some of the salt and pepper in the beginning of the recipe, and then we adjust to taste because it will vary depending on the seasoning in your broth. Once you add that in, give it all a good stir. And now we're gonna turn the Possible Cooker Pro off, and we're gonna get it on slow cook. So our soup is set up and ready to slow cook. We're gonna do that for 30 minutes on high. Don't forget to add in your raw bacon. Give it another stir. Now we're gonna put the lid on and leave it alone. The 30 minutes of slow cook is going to cook the potatoes perfectly. And what I love about this recipe is that's it. That's all you have to do. And you can leave it alone. Let it go on keep warm, and it can stay there for hours until you're ready to finish your soup. So go take your kids to soccer practice, whatever you want to do. The soup will be ready, and it'll be ready in about 5 minutes when you get home. Once your 30-minute slow cook time is done, you can, like I said, leave it on keep warm for several hours, no issues with that, or you can finish up your soup right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish it up so we can plate it up, or bowl it up, I should say, and give it a taste. So give it a little stir and you'll see it's nice and thick. Now, if you're concerned that maybe your potatoes are cut bigger than mine or they're not soft enough, you can certainly insert a fork, but I can just tell right now, they're gonna be perfect. My preference for this soup is to have a little bit of chunkiness to it. I think in a loaded potato soup, those chunks are wonderful. But if you don't want it that way, you can remove the bacon, you can let it cool a little bit, and you can certainly put it into a blender to get it nice and smooth. It's your soup, do it your way, okay? Before I start adding any of the other ingredients, I'm gonna take a hand masher. This is just a potato masher, and I'm gonna go through and start mashing up the potatoes. We can go ahead and turn this off, or you could leave it on keep warm. You know what? I'll just leave it right on keep warm. That'll be perfectly fine. All right, first I'm going to remove the bacon. It did its job. And then go through and just mash up the potatoes. Once you have the potatoes broken up the way that you like, you're gonna add in your milk or half and half. I'm using half and half. It just gives a little bit richer of a taste and feel. You could use whole milk, that's perfectly fine. This is, again, when you are going to use enough liquid for your personal preference. The thicker you want the soup, the less liquid you're gonna add in now. But start with 1 cup of milk or half and half. Now, if you wanted to really be indulgent and you wanted to use heavy cream, you absolutely can, but you want to temper the cream first. You don't want to just dump it right into this super hot soup or it's going to curdle. We're actually going to temper the sour cream the same way so that we don't have a split soup. You want a nice, cohesive, creamy looking potato soup. Mix the half and half in. Then we're gonna add the cheese. I start with 1.5 cups of shredded sharp cheddar. You could use any cheese you want. This is right out of the bag, already shredded. Makes no difference in this recipe, so do what you wanna do with that. Stir that in, it's gonna melt in. This will also thicken your soup, so I recommend adding the cheese before you add any extra liquid. And also add the cheese before you add any extra salt, because the cheese will add a little bit of salt to it. That looks good. Now, remember those bacon bits? We are gonna add in about 1/2 cup of them. Save the rest, but these really flavor the soup. And even though they don't stay super crunchy, they give a nice texture. They're not like rubbery or anything. It's really delicious in this soup. And we're gonna add in some of our green parts of the green onions that we chopped. How many you add is up to you. I usually do about 1/2 cup and then save the rest for garnish. I don't cook these in the soup because I like the texture better when they're stirred in at the end. They will soften some, just before you serve it, they're gonna soften a little bit because the soup's hot, but they don't get super cooked. And they also look beautiful in the soup. All right, now before we start to temper the sour cream, to add that in, and trust me on this, the sour cream is super duper important. It gives the balance, a little bit of tang. You could use cream cheese, of course, if you wanted to, but sour cream is definitely my preferred ingredient. Now this looks just a little bit too thick for my liking. Now keep in mind when you're adding extra liquid, if you're gonna serve it the next day, it is definitely gonna thicken up when it gets cold and as it sits. So you may not wanna add too much right now because you are gonna reheat it with a little bit of extra liquid. So if you're serving it, just add it until you like the texture and the consistency. And then the next day when you heat it up, you're gonna add a little bit more. All right, that looks good. And I just added 1/4 cup and I used chicken broth. I had some left over and that's gonna be fine, and it looks so nice and creamy right now. I didn't feel like I needed any more cream, but again, totally up to you. All right, now the important thing, let's temper this sour cream. And to do that, get a little bit of the hot soup and just put a little bit in. So what we're doing essentially is balancing the temperatures. The curdling happens when you have a temperature shock to the sour cream. So if it goes right in to the really hot soup and gets mixed in, it tends to split and it gives your soup like a grainy texture. But by adding it in slowly, adding the hot soup into this sour cream and slowly bringing up the temperature, we don't have that happen. Now, I will say that cream cheese does not really need to be treated like this because it is more stable. One more scoop should do it. All right, that's it. Now let's add that in. And we can turn our pot off now. Very important, you want to taste it before you serve it because you will most likely need to adjust the salt and pepper based on the saltiness of your broth and your personal preference. I guess I know my personal preference because that's perfect for me. All right, now for the garnishes. One of the things that I love so much about this Possible Cooker Pro is the versatility of all the different functions. And I recently released a cookbook that is a holiday edition cookbook. It's got tons of wonderful recipes, including this one in the cookbook, and it is available right now. So I've linked to it below the video. And if you have the Possible Cooker Pro, definitely you want to pick this up. You'll be amazed at what you can do with some of these functions that you may not have thought of. And the cookbook is designed so that you can make your holiday side dishes, main dishes, desserts, breads, all those things ahead of time to make your holiday preparation less stressful. Because you know, when the oven is full, the stovetop is full, and you've got that one last thing you need to reheat, what are you gonna use? Well, I found out you can use the Possible Cooker Pro in so many unique ways, and the recipes are amazing. This looks so amazing. I'm so excited. My goodness. Oh my gosh. That is so delicious. And you know what really tops this off? Dessert. And I'm gonna have some of my Pecan Praline Cake that was made right in the bottom of the Ninja Foodie Possible Cooker Pro. It's also in my cookbook. It is amazing. It's got layers of like the pecan pie filling surrounded by cake with this delicious and simple rum buttercream icing. Oh my goodness. For these recipes and tons more, pick up a copy of my cookbook. The link is below.